What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
When you look at all the top interrogation training, like that's how it was done. But not everybody gets this training. Even me, I thought I knew how to do interviews before I went to the NACA, National Credibility School. It was called DODPI when I went, Department of Defense Polygraph Institute, where I sought to polygraph and interview people.
What year was that?
Oh, this is bad. I don't remember.
Because I want to say
2005.
you were training to get in the NYPD in what, 99? Is that right?
NYPD, I went in 99 to 2000, and then I went 2000 into the U.S. Secret Service.
And then you were in it, obviously, ahead of 9/11. You were already in it.
I was in it, and then later on, they made me, they asked me, I was told by one of the senior examiners, hey, I'm leaving, you should take my spot. And I was like, nope, I didn't want it. I don't want to be an interviewer.
So you hadn't really done any of that before?
I had done interviews as a regular.
Okay.
As an agent, you do interviews. All agents do interviews because you have cases. I had my own caseloads. But I had the training that I got from just regular training, which isn't bad. It's good. But then when you get training but then when I became a polygraph examiner, there's only 30 of us. They're like, hey, do you want to be a polygraph examiner? And that team of people, they did the hard interviews. They had really elite training. And then so basically the training I have, the majority of U.S. Secret Service don't have it. There's like thousands of us. I'm not allowed to give how many there are. Maybe 30 of us had it. So I was one of 30. And so at that point, they send you to like a 3-month training school just on this.
And what context would you use a polygraph in? Because like we think about it with like CIA, they polygraph all their own agents to make sure people aren't.
We did the same.
Okay. But were there other things you used it for?
I could use it on this guy, Brian David Mitchell. Nope, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Brian, were you willing to take a polygraph? Sure. Okay, let's do it.
Oh, they have to agree to it though.
Everybody has to. You can't make somebody take a polygraph. You could give polygraphs to people who would be silent. So if it was, they used it where, let's say you had a missing person, like a body. You're looking for the body. You know the person killed someone, and you're like, look, we just want to find the body to give the family peace. There was like polygraphs where you could draw a map and put into quadrants, like quadrant 1, 2, 3, like a map, and say, okay, is she in quadrant 1? Is her body in quadrant 1? Is her body in quadrant 2? And then you would look at the polygraph, and wherever the polygraph peaked, in whatever quadrant, so if their polygraph peaked at quadrant 3, all right, guys, body's in quadrant 3, go look.
Whoa.
You could do that because the response is not the verbal, the response is the body. So if you're neutral in quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 4, quadrant 5, quadrant 6, but quadrant 3, you spike, that's a quadrant. So that would guide you to at least put your manpower to look for the body of whoever you're looking for in quadrant 3. And I'm saying when I say that is like you would have a big map, you'd zone it out, and you'd show the person. So there's ways to do that. But the polygraph itself, like I was the polygraph. The person doing it was the polygraph. Because sometimes if you built a really good connection with people, you wouldn't even have to polygraph them. I could just get such good rapport that you give me, it's called a pre-test confession. You tell me you did it without me even giving you the test. But that's them teaching you how to read people, how to build rapport, not to do this, move the table out of the way. They're the ones who taught me to move the table. They're like, nope, no tables. First of all, the thinking is, how are you going to read their body language? We teach all this body language stuff, and from here down, you can't see what they're doing with their feet. Are they tapping? Are they shaking? Are they fidgeting? Are they grooming? Are they picking lint off their pants? You're going to miss all that stuff, number one. Number two, it breaks the energy. If I'm sitting there building, be open. But I've got my folder in front of me with paperwork, and I'm taking notes. That was another thing. We didn't take notes. I didn't take notes.
Now, are you filming it though?
You know, when I first started doing them, we did not have to film. But then they started filming them. But even when they did not film, I did not take notes.
You had said a little earlier that you did whatever training became available to you, including with other places. I don't know if that meant you did all the actual like official training that they get put through in their initial schools when they're training their agents. But in your experience, from what you know at least, how similar was the training on, say, interrogations and polygraphs in the Secret Service to CIA or FBI, or did they kind of have their own takes on certain things?
So when you go to .pi, which is NACA now, actually every agency goes there first. So CIA sends their people there. So I was there with CIA, I was there with FBI, I was there with everybody. We're all there together. So our agencies send their would-be interrogators to training to .pi. It was Fort Jackson. And you spend 3 months there going through polygraph, interview training, psychology classes. Even we had pharmacists come in to talk to us because sometimes you're dealing with people on substances.
Oh, whoa.
Right? So if somebody's addicted to a drug or taking substances or doing stuff, you need to know that. So it was a biology. We had a massive biology class. It was like a semester of biology in a week and a half, and then you had to take a midterm and final on it. So you're there with them. Then when you leave, after you graduate that training, then you go back to your agency, which my agency was Secret Service. Then you go through a mentor program, sort of. And that means I'm not allowed to do any interrogations on my own, any polygraph interrogations. Before, as an agent, I could do whatever. But if I'm doing these, you have to think of it this way. When you're a polygraph examiner, they're calling you in for the hardest cases and the most important cases. Not that your cases are important, but you're like the last line of defense. So because of the severity of the cases that you're doing, you had to be mentored by somebody. So I was only allowed to do interviews with other senior examiners. And then they would have to do a write-up on me. She's good, she's this, she sucked, she needs to work on that, whatever it was. Then it would be sent to quality control, which is Washington, D.C., and I had to report to D.C. to the top echelon of the interrogation unit, the polygraph unit, and they would track me. And if I did well, then they would let me do interviews on my own. And if not, you get yanked. So some people would get yanked from the program. It was a very stressful job because so much rode on you. They're looking at you like, hey, we interviewed this person 4 times. We believe that they're the one who broke the 3-month-old baby's arm. Get a confession. So I would also get temped out to police departments in the United States to help them. So I didn't just do U.S. Secret Service cases. I did local police departments. In the U.S., we have about 17,000 law enforcement entities. When I say that, it's like NYPD, LAPD, NYPD, Chicago PD, and then FBI, ATF. Those are all law enforcement entities. There's about 17,000 in the U.S.
Sounds like enough.
Well, it's designed like that by our forefathers because they didn't want to have one national police force. If you go to the UK, there's one. There's one police commissioner in the UK. There's one national police force. That doesn't exist here. We don't have a national police force.
So they have MI5 and MI6.
That's
MI6,
intelligence.
Right. But
right.
MI5 I always thought was like their FBI equivalent.
There's agencies that have federal jurisdiction, but when you look at police departments, it's one. Here, we have multiple. Here you have NYPD. It's got its own police commissioner, and they do their own thing. You have Chicago PD, its own police commissioner. They do its own thing. We're fragmented here so that there's no one powerful entity. There's one when you look at law enforcement and policing. So in the United States, the police departments, they don't have all the resources they need. In fact, I think it's half the police departments have 10 officers or less. So what can they do? They're limited to what they can do and their training and all that. So they would reach out to an agency like the U.S. Secret Service. And most people don't know this, but in the back, behind closed doors, it's known. And they'd say, look, I have this case. Can you help? Send me one of your people here. We believe this guy did this crime. We have no evidence. He's going to walk. Would you guys take a crack at it? And so they would loan us out to police departments. We would get the case file, and they say, go see if you can help solve this case. Help get them either new leads, new information, or sometimes I'd go in and I'd say, this is not your person.
How often did that kind of thing happen?
It would happen. I can't give it a number because it's just like a random thing. It would happen, but that's why it was very important when you went in there that you checked your ego at the door and you come in neutral because you don't know if you have bad information, if people are biased, if it looks like he did it. Looking like you're guilty and being guilty are two very different things. And so if I come in and I have this confirmation bias, you're my guy, you're my guy, you're my
Yes.
guy, then everything you say is going to lead me to the conclusion I'm going to make it fit to make you my guy, to make you the suspect. And the things you tell me that negate that you did it, I'm going to dismiss those. I'm not going to pay attention to those because I'm only listening to the stuff that's leading me to the conclusion that you did it. So you really have to come in neutral, unbiased, and then get information. So just because the police department would say, we believe he did it, it didn't mean that the person actually did it.
It seems like from the outside that sort of attitude happens all the time. You know, guys are trying to close a file, right? They're trying to make sure the case gets solved so that someone on a Tuesday in November can say, we closed 89% of cases. You know what I mean? So I always worry about that. And we've heard the stories before, you know, where people, and you even say it, like sometimes where someone literally looks guilty, like it wasn't here, but like Amanda Knox was a prime example of that, right? She just kind of looked guilty to them. So they're like, you must have done it. Right. And I want to think that like all detectives are great or whatever, but you know, people are also trying to do their job. And if their job is not to be like, well, let's see if we can figure out if this guy didn't do it. It's more like you talk about the power of thinking going into it. It's more like, how do we determine if this guy did it? Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.